In July 2015, a 2-year-old boy disappeared from a remote Idaho campground, while 4 adults sat within 150 feet of him. Their own private investigator concluded they were responsible for his death. But without a body, without evidence, without confession, the truth remains buried somewhere in the mountains. The question that has haunted Lemhi County for over a decade persists. Where is DeOrr Kunz Jr.? The phone rings through the pines, echoing across Timber Creek. Jessica Mitchell's voice carries an edge of concern, not yet panic. DeOrr, little man. Her grandfather sits near the fire ring, oxygen tank hissing its mechanical rhythm beside his camp chair. Bob, where's DeOrr? The old man looks up, confusion settling across his weathered features. I thought he went with you? 50 feet away, the creek continues its endless tumble over smooth stones. No small voice answers. No sound of boots too big for small feet. Just mountain silence, vast and indifferent. But rewind several hours, to when the morning was still ordinary. DeOrr Kunz Jr. came into the world on December 30th, 2012. By the summer of 2015, he'd grown into 36 inches of pure curiosity, blonde hair that caught light like spun gold, hazel eyes that noticed everything. 28 pounds of perpetual motion. His parents called him Little Man, that universal nickname for toddlers trying to be bigger than they are, copying Dad's walk, wanting Dad's boots, insisting on doing things by self. In Idaho Falls, DeOrr lives the life every 2-year-old lives. Routines built around meals and naps, matchbox cars clutched in small fists, carried everywhere, treasured with the fierce possessiveness of childhood. A camouflage jacket that makes him feel like Dad. Those brown cowboy boots with lighter camouflage print, the kind every Idaho boy wants to wear, even when their size is too big and slide around on small feet. His mother, Jessica Mitchell, is young, close with her family, navigating the challenges of raising an energetic toddler. His father, DeOrr Kunz Sr., takes the little man nickname seriously, teaching his son to be tough, to love the outdoors, to be an Idaho boy. They're a typical family in a small Idaho town. Unremarkable in every way that matters. Jessica's grandfather, Robert Walton, is 76. The oxygen tank is constant now. A clear tube running to his nose. The hiss of supplemental air, his companion. But he adores his great-grandson. Loves when the family visits. Treasures the connection between generations. He's camped at Timber Creek before. Knows the area. The remoteness is part of its appeal. Isaac Reinbond is Bob's friend. There to help with physical tasks the old man can't manage anymore. Lifting heavy equipment. Setting up camp. The kind of assistance age eventually requires. He's never met Jessica, Vernal, or DeOrr before this trip. He has developmental delays that slow his processing. But he's reliable, consistent, willing to help. July in Idaho means camping season. Families pack trucks and head into the mountains, seeking escape from summer heat. Connection with nature. Time away from screens and schedules. The spontaneous decision happens around dinner tables and over phone calls. Let's go camping this weekend. No elaborate planning. Just throw gear in the truck and go. For DeOrr, this trip to Timber Creek represents adventure. Camping with Grandpa Bob. Sleeping in the truck with Mom and Dad. Exploring the forest at 2.5. The concept of wilderness danger doesn't exist. The world is safe because adults make it so. Trust is absolute. Fear is reserved for thunder and darkness. Not mountains and creeks. The Idaho wilderness in summer smells of pine sap warming in afternoon sun. Mornings are cool enough for jackets. Afternoons blaze hot. Nights drop temperatures fast, reminding visitors that elevation matters. The forests are beautiful. Dense stands of lodgepole pine, Douglas fir, spruce. Wildlife is abundant but mostly stays hidden. Black bears, elk, deer, coyotes, The ecosystem is ancient and complex. Timber Creek Campground sits in Salmon Chalice National Forest. Administered by the U.S. Forest Service. It's primitive camping. No electrical hookups. No running water. No paved roads. The kind of place accessed only by those who know it exists, who don't mind rough roads and isolation. Some families have traditions there, returning summer after summer. For others, like DeOrr's family, it's a new destination, chosen because Grandpa Bob remembers it. The preparations are typical. Packing always means forgetting something when a toddler is involved. Extra clothes because spills happen. Snacks because hunger strikes suddenly. Toys to keep small hands busy during long drives. Camping gear accumulated over years. Tents that smell of mildew. Sleeping bags compressed in stuff sacks. Camp chairs with frayed fabric. DeOrr's excitement is palpable. Go camping? See Grandpa Bob? The questions repeat. The way toddler questions do. Seeking confirmation that the promised adventure is real. The relationship between DeOrr and his parents is ordinary. The typical attachment. The typical dependency. He reaches for mom when tired. Follows dad when exploring. Tests boundaries the way all 2-year-olds do. The relationship between DeOrr and Grandpa Bob carries that special quality grandparents cultivate. Indulgence. Patience. Delight in every small accomplishment. The photograph that will later circulate shows a blonde toddler in camouflage. Hazel eyes bright with the confidence that comes from being loved unconditionally. Small face open. Trusting. Little man. A child who exists entirely in the present tense. Where tomorrow means camping, and the concept of danger hasn't been learned yet. A child whose world is bounded by parents and grandparents. Toys and routines. The simple joys of being 2 years old on the cusp of adventure. The evening of July 9th, 2015, arrives with typical summer warmth. Time to load the truck. 6 o'clock. Idaho Falls pulses with end-of-day traffic. Jessica and Vernal load their truck with practiced chaos. The kind that comes from traveling with a toddler. Sleeping bags. Cooler. Camping stove. Did we pack the? Yes. Where's the? In the back. DeOrr's excitement makes him difficult. Squirming in his car seat. Babbling questions. Bob Walton's camper is already packed. Oxygen tanks secured. Isaac Reinwan will meet them at the campground in his own vehicle. The spontaneity shows in forgotten items. Last-minute runs back inside. That rushed quality of decisions made quickly. The convoy heads north. Highway miles pass beneath tires. Civilization thinning with each exit. Towns become, villages become, nothing. DeOrr appears eventually. Population, maybe $100 on a generous count. One gas station. One small store. The kind of place people pass through rather than to. They continue west, beyond the pavement's end. Dirt road. Rocky. The truck's suspension protests. DeOrr's babbling shifts to fussing. The drive is taking forever in toddler perception. The final 10 miles require 45 to 60 minutes of careful navigation. Ruts deep enough to scrape undercarriage. Rocks that could puncture tires. The kind of road that makes drivers question their route. I wonder if they've taken a wrong turn into nowhere. 9:30 at night. Timber Creek Campground emerges from darkness into headlight beams. Dense pines crowd the clearing. The creek's sound fills the space. Louder in the dark. Setup happens in chaos. Where does the tent go? Which direction for the camper? DeOrr is beyond exhausted now. Crying, the overtired cry that no soothing can fix. They settle him in the truck bed between his parents. Isaac pitches his tent. Bob arranges his camper. Oxygen tank hissing through mountain silence. The weight of remoteness settles over everything. 125 miles from Idaho Falls. An hour's brutal drive from DeOrr. Millions of acres of Salmon Chalice National Forest surrounding them. The nearest neighbor exists in concept only. Miles away, across impossible terrain. The stars are extraordinary, without light pollution. The Milky Way sprawls visible. Ancient light reaching across incomprehensible distance. The isolation is complete. Morning arrives the way mountain mornings do. Cold air. Condensation on tent fabric. Bird calls echoing through trees. DeOrr wakes early. Toddlers don't respect camping schedules. His energy forces everyone else awake. They gather around the fire ring as morning warms. Breakfast is simple. Coffee for the adults. Food heated over camp stove. Isaac Reinwand will remember this clearly later. The little boy clumping around in those brown cowboy boots with camouflage print. The boots are comically large. Sizes too big for small feet. DeOrr walks like he's wearing his father's shoes. Because essentially, he is. Each step lifts high. Sets down carefully. The gait of a child managing footwear that doesn't fit. Bob Walton sits in his camp chair. Oxygen tank beside him. Clear tube to his nose. Isaac tends the fire. Jessica and Vernal organize gear. Making decisions about the day. DeOrr explores the immediate campsite. 10 feet this direction. 10 feet that direction. The boundaries of toddler adventure. Through the trees. The creek is visible. 50 to 150 feet away depending on perspective. The embankment drops 8 to 10 feet to the water. The sound is constant. Soothing. The white noise of moving water over stone. The conversation is loose. Maybe fish. Maybe explore. Maybe just relax. Bob isn't capable of much. The oxygen tank defines his limits. Isaac is there primarily to help Bob with tasks requiring strength or stamina. The parents are young, energetic, wanting to make the most of being in nature. 10:30 rolls around. Jessica mentions needing feminine products. They're low on diesel fuel. DeOrr is the only option. That tiny town they pass through in darkness. The decision is made. Jessica, Vernal, and DeOrr will make the run. Isaac and Bob will hold down the campsite. Round trip, approximately 3 hours. 20 miles on road that punishes vehicles. Plus time in town. They load into the truck. DeOrr, in his car seat. The journey begins around 10:30 or 11. The road shakes teeth loose. Dust billows. Speed crawls. DeOrr sits strapped in back. The landscape bouncing past windows. The drive stretches interminably. Distance measured in discomfort rather than miles. DeOrr appears. Population 100. Maybe? The gas station sits at the crossroads. The small store nearby serves locals and rare travelers. They pull in. What happens next becomes crucial. Jessica and Vernal will later claim they entered the store with DeOrr. Bought diesel. Bought supplies. The child was with them. They'll insist on this with increasing desperation as time passes. But something doesn't align. The store is tiny. A toddler in camouflage should be memorable. Children that age draw attention. Touching things. Asking questions. Existing loudly in small spaces. The clerk working doesn't remember seeing a blonde 2-year-old. Not vaguely. Not at all. Other customers interviewed later can't confirm it either. In a store that small, in a town that isolated, a child should leave impression, memory, witnesses, but there are none. The return journey begins around 1. The brutal road again. The slow crawl back to Timber Creek, 1:10 in the afternoon. The truck pulls into the clearing. 3 hours gone. Bob and Isaac have held the campsite in their absence. The fire still burns. The afternoon heat builds. DeOrr should be with them. The story says he is. Shortly after, 1 to 10. A decision is made. Vernal wants to fish. Jessica agrees. The creek sits right there. Close enough to hear conversation from camp. Close enough to feel safe. 50 feet? 100 feet? 150 feet? The distance seems negligible. Parents make calculations constantly. How far is too far? How close is close enough? This seems reasonable. Watch DeOrr. Jessica will later claim she told her grandfather. Bob Walton will later claim he never heard this request. One of these statements contains deception, or both contain partial truth, or miscommunication happened in that ordinary moment when fishing poles were gathered and plans were made. What is certain, Bob Walton is 76 years old. He requires supplemental oxygen. He cannot physically chase a toddler across rough terrain. He sits in his camp chair by the fire ring. His hearing may not be perfect. Age and medical conditions create limitations. Isaac Reinwand is somewhere in the campsite. Accounts vary on exactly where. His timeline stays consistent when questioned. But it's limited. Developmental delays affect his ability to process and recall specific sequential details. Jessica and Vernal walk toward the creek, fishing gear in hand. The path leads through trees, down the embankment, to the water. They can probably hear sounds from camp if they listen. Probably. DeOrr wears his camouflage jacket, blue pajama pants, green and black checkered socks, those oversized brown cowboy boots. 1:10 to 2:10. 60 minutes. An hour where everything changes or nothing happens. Depending on which version of events holds truth. According to Jessica and Vernal, they left DeOrr with Grandpa Bob. Safe. Supervised. They fished nearby. Everything was fine. Until it wasn't. According to Bob, he doesn't remember being asked to watch the boy. He thought DeOrr went with his parents. He sits in his chair. Oxygen hissing. 76 years settling heavy in bones. He may have dozed. He's not sure when he last saw the child. According to Isaac, he saw DeOrr that morning, clumping around in oversized boots. After breakfast, his timeline becomes vague. He was at his tent. He was helping Bob. The details blur. His story stays consistent in its limitations. 60 minutes pass. The creek moves over stones. The pines sway in afternoon breeze. The fire crackles. Somewhere, something happens, or doesn't happen, or happens differently than any story tells. 2:10 approaches. Jessica and Vernal return from the creek, fishing poles in hand. They expect to see DeOrr. Small figure near Grandpa Bob, playing with sticks, examining rocks, being two. He's not there. Where's little man? Bob looks up. Confusion crosses his features. I thought he went with you? The moment expands. Realization hits in stages. Confusion first. He's not here. Concern follows. DeOrr? DeOrr. Fear arrives sharp. DeOrr. Panic floods everything. They search the immediate area. Around the fire ring. Behind Bob's camper. In Isaac's tent. Along the creek edge, where water could grab and pull. The oversized boots should be obvious. Brown with camo print. Way too big to walk in. If he wandered, basic physics says he'd have kicked them off within feet. Small children don't keep ill-fitting footwear. They find nothing. No boots lying discarded. No jacket snagged on branches. No small body wedged in rocks. No trace. 10 minutes of searching becomes 20. 20 becomes 30. The desperation grows exponential. Voices calling DeOrr, echo against trees. The forest absorbs sound and returns nothing. Jessica finds cellular signal. Barely. 2:28 in the afternoon. Her fingers shake, dialing 911. I need to report my son missing. The dispatcher's voice crackles through poor connection. Jessica Mitchell describes her missing son. 2 years old. Blonde hair. Hazel eyes. Camouflage jacket. Blue pajama pants. Oversized cowboy boots. Missing approximately 18 minutes at time of call. Last seen at campsite with grandfather. Timber Creek Campground. Where exactly is Timber Creek? The question reveals the challenge immediately. The location is so remote that describing it requires references to other remote places. 125 miles northwest of Idaho Falls. 10 miles west of DeOrr on Forest Service roads. GPS coordinates are more useful than addresses in wilderness this deep. While Jessica remains on the phone, Vernal gets in the truck. He drives down the treacherous access road toward DeOrr, seeking better signal, ensuring help is actually coming. The urgency is genuine. Whatever else is true, their fear in this moment appears real. Bob and Isaac continue searching. An old man tethered to oxygen, and a man with developmental delays looking for a toddler in millions of acres of wilderness. The helplessness is absolute. The forest is vast, indifferent, unchanged by human panic. Lemhi County Sheriff's Office receives the call. Sheriff Lynn Bowerman begins coordination. The challenge is immediate and geographic. Getting personnel to one of the most remote locations in Idaho requires time that missing children don't have. Every minute matters. But the road that took the family 45 to 60 minutes must now be traveled repeatedly by emergency vehicles. 3 o'clock. First, deputies arrive. The assessment begins. Child missing approximately 1 to 2 hours. Age, 2 years old. Critical for exposure danger. Environment, rugged wilderness. Creek with fast-moving water. Steep embankments. Dense forest. Temperature, July afternoon heat. Clothing, not dressed for overnight survival. Immediate dangers stack up. Water, drowning risk. Terrain, fall risk. Exposure, hypothermia when night falls. Wildlife, unlikely but possible. The search pattern initializes. Ground crews start with concentric circles from the campsite. The creek receives priority focus. Water is the primary killer. Calls go out for additional resources. K-9 units, dive teams, air support, U.S. Forest Service. They know this terrain better than anyone. 4 o'clock. The search intensifies as daylight begins its countdown. More volunteers arrive from DeOrr. Salmon. Surrounding areas. Word spreads through mountain communities. Toddler missing at Timber Creek. The response is immediate. People grab flashlights. Change into boots. Drive impossible roads to help search for a child they've never met. Tracking dogs arrive. They're given DeOrr's scent from clothing in the truck. Tracking dogs exist for this purpose. Finding children who wander. They should pick up a trail. Follow where small feet traveled. Lead searchers to the child. The dogs can't establish a trail. This is the first sign something is fundamentally wrong. A 2-year-old walking in oversized boots should leave scent. Should disturb ground cover. Should create a path dogs can follow. The handlers try multiple approaches. Different starting points. Fresh scent articles. The result doesn't change. No trail leads into forest. No trail toward creek. No trail anywhere. Sunset approaches. The Idaho wilderness transforms in darkness. Searchers bring spotlights. Flashlights. Headlamps. The creek sounds louder without visual reference. Every shadow could be a small body. Every dark shape requires investigation. Teams work in shifts through the night. High-probability areas receive continuous coverage. Voices calling DeOrr echo endlessly. The parents participate. Jessica and Vernal are out there with flashlights. Searching. Calling. Bob Walton remains essentially confined to camp. His medical condition prevents participation beyond sitting. Waiting. Guilt, settling like sediment. The first night yields nothing. No trace. No boots. No fabric caught on branches. No small footprints in soft earth near water. No child responding to his name called hundreds of times into darkness. Dawn on July 11th brings professional search and rescue teams en masse. This is now full-scale operation. Lemhi County Sheriff, SAR. Bonneville County Sheriff Dive Team. U.S. Forest Service personnel. Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue. Civil Air Patrol. Volunteer searchers from across Idaho. By day's end, nearly 200 people will be involved. The methodology is systematic. Ground searches use grid patterns expanding from campsite. Every bush examined. Every log lifted. Every depression in terrain investigated. Searchers hold hands. Walk in lines. Covering every inch of ground. The radius expands. Half-mile. 1 mile. Beyond. Dive teams deploy in Stone Reservoir nearby. Creek searches proceed both upstream and downstream. Sonar equipment scans underwater. The theory: if he fell in water, current could have carried his body. Drowning victims don't always surface immediately. Children are small, easily moved by water flow. Helicopters arrive equipped with forward-looking infrared technology. FLIR can detect body heat even under tree cover. They fly grids over wilderness area. Thermal cameras scanning for the heat signature of a small child. Alive or recently deceased. Drones supplement helicopter searches, covering areas aircraft can't safely navigate. Multiple canine units deploy. Tracking dogs. Cadaver dogs trained to detect human decomposition. The dogs should alert to either living scent or remains. The continued inability to establish any scent trail becomes increasingly baffling. It defies standard search and rescue outcomes. By midday, July 11th, the search radius extends to 2.5 miles around the campsite. Hundreds of people have covered thousands of acres. They've found wildlife. Elk, deer, smaller animals. Old camping debris left by previous visitors. Natural features that initially appear promising but reveal nothing upon investigation. They found nothing related to DeOrr Kunz Jr. Statistical improbability stares back at searchers. A 2-year-old in oversized boots should produce one of 3 outcomes. Found quickly. Most cases resolve within hours. Clothing or evidence found. Boots would fall off. Jacket would snag on vegetation. Body located. Tragic but providing closure. None of these have occurred. The search finds absolutely nothing. This begins to seem impossible rather than merely unlikely. July 11th and 12th bring formal interviews. Standard protocol in missing persons cases. Interview everyone present. Establish timeline. Look for inconsistencies. Sheriff's deputies begin while SAR operations continue. Jessica Mitchell describes the day. Breakfast together. The Lador trip. The fishing decision. The discovery. She states clearly they told Bob to watch DeOrr. Timeline of the Lador trip. Left around 10:30 or 11. Returned around 1 to 10. She states DeOrr was with them at the store. This detail will become crucial. She describes the fishing expedition. Maybe an hour. Close to camp. Could hear if DeOrr cried. She's emotional. Crying. Desperate for her son to be found. DeOrr Kunz Sr. corroborates Jessica's timeline generally. He also states They told Bob to watch the child. He describes searching after discovering DeOrr missing. His 911 support. Driving for signal. Confirms panic and urgency. He's emotional, frustrated, wanting to be out searching rather than answering questions. Robert Walton does not recall being asked to watch DeOrr. He thought the child went fishing with parents. His physical limitations are acknowledged. Oxygen dependence. Limited mobility. He cannot provide specific timeline of when he last saw the child. Devastation and guilt are visible. Confusion evident. Isaac Reinwand remembers DeOrr clumping around in oversized boots at breakfast. His timeline after breakfast is vague. He cannot pinpoint when he last saw the child. He did not hear any request to watch DeOrr. His story is simple, consistent, but lacks detail. Investigators attribute this to cognitive processing limitations. The first red flag emerges. Deputies contact the DeOrr convenience store. Speak to the clerk working that day. The clerk does not remember seeing a blonde toddler. At all. In a store that small, a 2-year-old is memorable. Children touch merchandise. Ask questions. Exist loudly. Parents chase them. Apologize for disruptions. But no witness remembers the child. This discrepancy is noted but not yet emphasized. The focus remains on finding DeOrr alive. July 15th. 5 days of intensive searching have produced zero evidence. Sheriff Lynn Bowerman makes an announcement that changes everything. We are scaling back the active search and transitioning this case to a criminal investigation. The reasoning is professional and devastating. A 2-year-old child cannot evade the most intensive search in Lemhi County history without leaving a single trace. Not clothing, not boots, not tracks, not scent. Nothing. The assessment, DeOrr Kunz Jr., was never in the wilderness to be found. The transition from rescue to investigation feels like abandonment to the family. SAR teams stand down from active searching. The case file shifts categorization. Lost child becomes suspicious disappearance. The 4 adults present become subjects of intense scrutiny. The focus changes from where is he to what happened to him. Public reaction is immediate. The community feels stunned. Volunteer searchers who walked thousands of acres feel dismissed. The family responds with devastation and defensiveness. National media picks up the story. Headlines scream, "Parents under suspicion in toddler's disappearance." Jessica and Vernal are adamant. They had nothing to do with their son's disappearance. They believe he was abducted. Jessica begins talking about a creep in a Jeep. A suspicious man she saw at the DeOrr store. Driving a black Jeep Rubicon. Giving her bad feelings. Summer transitions to fall. The investigation employs standard protocol. Polygraph examinations. The FBI becomes involved, bringing polygraph expertise. Jessica Mitchell takes her first exam. The results indicate deception. Questions focus on knowledge of DeOrr's whereabouts. Involvement in disappearance. Truthfulness about the DeOrr trip. Second exam with different examiner. Failed. Third exam. Failed. Every examiner reaches the same conclusion. Deception indicated. Lemhi Kunz Sr. undergoes similar testing. First exam failed. Multiple retests with different examiners. Results stay consistent. Deception indicated on crucial questions regarding what happened to DeOrr. Sheriff Bowerman eventually makes a public statement. The parents have been less than truthful during our investigation. Their stories have changed numerous times. What polygraphs cannot determine what happened to DeOrr. When something happened, where the child is. Polygraphs show deception, not specific crimes. They're investigative tools, not court evidence. The parents maintain the polygraphs are wrong. They're grieving, traumatized. Stress makes them test poorly. They insist they're being railroaded because investigators have no other leads. The DeOrr discrepancy deepens. Further investigation of the trip. Store clerk interviewed multiple times. Never saw a toddler that day during the time frame parents claim. Other witnesses interviewed. No one remembers seeing the family with a child. The store has no security footage. Too small. Too rural. No system installed. One witness remembers seeing a blond boy later in the evening. This contradicts the midday timeline entirely. The investigative theory forms gradually. DeOrr was not at Timber Creek on July 10th, or he was deceased before the 911 call. The DeOrr trip may have been part of cover-up. The fishing trip may have been establishing alibi. November 2015. Jessica and Vernal hire private investigator Philip Klein of Klein Investigations and Consulting. Kick, Texas. The strategy: prove their innocence. Find their son. Refute law enforcement suspicions. Klein's approach is comprehensive. He conducts over 80 interviews, reviews all evidence and law enforcement files, reconstructs timeline personally, examines the campsite, uses his own polygraph experts, investigates alternative theories, abduction, animal attack, simple wandering. Initially, the parents provide full cooperation. Klein has access to everything. They believe he will vindicate them. Jessica tells Klein about the suspicious man, the creep in a Jeep, black Jeep Rubicon at the DeOrr store. Bad vibes. Klein investigates thoroughly, tries to identify the Jeep owner, examines whether abduction from Timber Creek is logistically possible. His conclusion: the terrain makes silent abduction nearly impossible. A stranger couldn't navigate the treacherous road. Enter the campsite, take a child, and leave without being detected by 4 adults present. The theory doesn't hold water. The more Klein investigates, the more troubled he becomes. The parents' story has inconsistencies that don't resolve. The DeOrr witnesses don't exist. The timeline has gaps and contradictions. Behavioral patterns raise concerns. Early 2016, Klein's team, with the parents' permission, searches their former apartment in Idaho Falls, the location where they lived before and after the camping trip. They find matchbox cars, the specific toys the parents claimed DeOrr had with him at the campsite. They find a camouflage jacket, matching description of what DeOrr was supposedly wearing when he vanished. The significance crashes down. These are items the parents specifically, explicitly claimed were with DeOrr at Timber Creek when he disappeared. These items were part of the missing child description. Searchers were told to look for these exact things. If these items are in the apartment, they were never at Timber Creek. If they were never at Timber Creek, the parents lied about what DeOrr was wearing and carrying. If they lied about these details, the entire narrative collapses. January 2016. Philip Klein holds a press conference. What he says destroys any remaining benefit of doubt. I believe DeOrr Kunz Jr. is deceased. I believe his death was the result of either an intentional or accidental incident. I believe the parents have knowledge of what happened. Klein's findings are detailed. Could not verify the child's presence on the mountain on July 10th. Ruled out animal attack. No biological evidence whatsoever. Ruled out abduction. Logistically impossible. Ruled out simple wandering. No scent trail. No trace evidence. Noted significant deception in parental statements. Discovered missing items in parents' residence. The betrayal is complete. The investigator they hired, paid, and trusted has publicly declared them responsible for their son's death. Sheriff's Office agrees with Klein's assessment. January 2016. Jessica Mitchell and Vernal Kunz are officially named suspects. No arrests are made. Insufficient evidence exists for charges. The parents maintain innocence. They fire Klein. 2017. The Kunz family files civil suit against Philip Klein and KIC Texas. Allegations include breach of contract, defamation, infliction of emotional distress. They claim Klein was supposed to help them. Instead, defamed them publicly. They seek damages for emotional harm, reputational damage, fees paid via GoFundMe campaign. The legal battle drags through 2017, 2018, into 2019. Discovery process is extensive. Klein must defend his investigation and conclusions. Klein's defense rests on First Amendment protection. DeOrr's disappearance is a matter of public concern. His statements are protected opinions based on thorough investigation. No evidence has been presented that his conclusions are false. GoFundMe payment structure means no breach of contract damages can be demonstrated. 2019. District Judge Bruce Pickett rules. He dismisses the majority of claims. Rules in favor of Klein. Notes that family failed to prove Klein's statements false. Affirms that Klein's investigation was thorough and his conclusions were professional opinions. Case dismissed with prejudice. Cannot be refiled. The validation stings. A court of law has essentially endorsed the investigator's conclusion that the parents were involved. 2016 through 2023 become the cold case years. Media attention fades. The parents separate. Both leave Idaho Falls. But two groups never stop searching. Law enforcement persists. Sheriff Steve Penner, now retired, and current Sheriff John Bennett continue investigating. They visit Timber Creek over 100 times. They lift rocks. They scan the reservoir. They walk the woods in every season. They're looking for remains now. A bone fragment. A piece of fabric. Anything that might provide answers. Trina Clegg, DeOrr's maternal grandmother, refuses to let his memory fade. She visits the campsite, issues statements on anniversaries, maintains hope in the face of crushing evidence that her daughter may be involved. The pain in her vigil is palpable. Loving a missing grandson while doubting her own child. 2019 brings a new private investigator. David Marshburn takes over where Klein left off. Unlike Klein, Marshburn believes evidence may still exist at Timber Creek. He explores areas not previously searched, climbs steep terrain above the campsite, refuses to accept that there's nothing to find. Years pass. Suspects named but not charged. Child never found. Case cold but open. Family fractured. Truth hidden somewhere between mountain silence and human deception. Until 2024. Summer 2024. 9 years have passed since DeOrr vanished. David Marshburn climbs terrain above Timber Creek Campground. Not where others have searched. Steep routes a 2-year-old couldn't possibly have climbed. But where evidence might have been carried by animals, by weather, by spring runoff. He sees fabric wedged against rocks on a challenging slope. Small, child-sized. He approaches carefully. This could be nothing. Could be from any camping trip across decades. It's a North Face fleece pullover jacket. Size, toddler. Marshburn doesn't touch it immediately. He photographs the scene. Documents location with GPS. Notes context. No other evidence visible in surrounding area. Then, using gloves, he carefully retrieves the jacket. The observations are immediate. Weathered but identifiable. Animal markings visible. Scratches. Bite marks. Tears in fabric. Discoloration that could be old blood. Location well above campsite. In terrain requiring adult climbing ability. Questions cascade. Is this DeOrr's jacket? Parents said he wore camouflage. But could they have been wrong about which jacket? How did it reach this location? Animals carrying it? Water flow during spring runoff? Someone placing it there? The blood? Is it human? Is it DeOrr's? The animal damage? Was the child attacked? Or did scavengers find remains after death from other causes? After 9 years of nothing, physical evidence exists. But what will it reveal? Late 2024, Idaho State Police Laboratory receives the jacket for comprehensive forensic analysis. DNA analysis becomes primary focus. Extract and identify DNA from blood and tissue stains on fabric. Samples taken from multiple areas of discoloration. Standard DNA extraction protocols applied. PCR amplification attempted. STR profiling to create genetic fingerprint. The challenges are immediate. 9 years of environmental exposure. UV radiation. Moisture. Temperature extremes. Bacterial degradation. DNA degrades over time, especially in outdoor conditions. Animal contamination is possible. Predator or scavenger DNA mixed with any human DNA. Results arrive. Partial DNA profile obtained. Quality: severely degraded. Quantity: very low. Conclusion: insufficient for definitive identification. The DNA profile shows some human markers, but not enough to compare against DeOrr's known DNA from parents. From items in the family home. Fabric analysis proceeds separately. Brand confirmed: North Face. Size: 2T to 3T. Consistent with DeOrr's age and size. Color and style, not the camouflage jacket described initially. But children often have multiple jackets. Age of fabric: consistent with 2015 manufacture date. Wear patterns: consistent with child's use. Blood analysis provides limited results. Presumptive tests positive for human blood. Confirmatory tests degraded by time. Cannot determine if blood originated from injury, nosebleed, or trauma. Pattern analysis: not spatter. No high-velocity event visible, more like saturation or seepage. Animal damage analysis reveals carnivore involvement. Bite marks consistent with coyote or small bear. Scratch patterns from claws. Damage patterns suggest the jacket was on something when damaged. On a body, stuffed with other materials, not just fabric alone lying flat. Post-mortem scavenging versus attack on living person. Impossible to determine from jacket alone. Timeline assessment. Weathering consistent with 9 years outdoor exposure. Fabric degradation matches expected timeline. Location exposure. Partial shelter from rocks. May have preserved it better than open ground would have. Early 2025. Sheriff John Bennett receives the lab report. It's simultaneously the biggest break in the case and a devastating dead end. What they have? Physical evidence possibly belonging to DeOrr. Proof that something happened in that wilderness. Indication of animal involvement. A location to focus new searches. What they don't have? Definitive DNA match. Cause of death. Remains? Concrete answers. Spring 2025. Based on the jacket's location, searchers return to Timber Creek with new focus. The steep terrain above the campsite becomes target area. Theory: if DeOrr died at camp, animals could have carried remains or clothing uphill, or water flow during spring runoff moved items, or someone placed the jacket there deliberately. Methods deployed: ground-penetrating radar looking for buried remains. Renewed cadaver dog deployment. Excavation of areas where dogs alert. Expanded search radius on the slope. Dogs alert at several locations, including a downed tree near the creek. Same area flagged in 2019. Excavation produces no remains. Satellite searches find no additional clothing. No bones. No boots. No other trace. The frustration is crushing. 9 years. Over 100 visits to the site. Thousands of hours searching. One partial jacket. Still no DeOrr. By 2025, Jessica and Vernal have separated. Both have left the Idaho Falls area. Current locations are not widely publicized. Their maintained position remains unchanged. They had nothing to do with DeOrr's disappearance. They believe he was abducted. They believe law enforcement focused on them instead of finding their son. The polygraphs were flawed. Stress, grief, trauma affecting results. The Klein investigation was biased. The missing items in the apartment were duplicates or mistakes. They are victims of rush to judgment. Neither gives interviews anymore. Media requests are declined. Statements through attorneys are minimal. The lawsuit they filed was dismissed. The court of public opinion has largely convicted them. No charges have ever been filed. Despite being named suspects in 2016, despite failed polygraphs, despite investigator conclusions, despite court validation of Klein's findings, no criminal charges. Why? No body. No crime scene. No forensic evidence directly linking them to loss. Circumstantial cases, no matter how strong, require either physical evidence or confession. They've provided neither. Reviewing cadaver dog evidence across 3 separate deployments reveals patterns. 2016. Dog named Chance alerted at 5 locations. Diaper tree area. 10 feet east of campsite. Excavation found buried animal plus human blood on towel from person who buried it. Various locations near campsite. 2019. Marshburn's dogs showed strong alert at down tree near creek. Excavation found no remains. Theory: scent of decomposition without remains present. Body moved, completely degraded. 2025. Post-jacket discovery. Alerts in areas uphill from campsite. Alerts near where jacket was found. No. Remains recovered. Cadaver dogs detect specific compounds released during human decomposition. Can detect remains buried, submerged, or long removed. False alerts are possible but less common with well-trained dogs. Multiple dogs alerting to same areas suggests genuine scent detection. The interpretation: human remains were present at Timber Creek at some point. The scent persists, even if body doesn't. This supports theory that DeOrr died at or near the campsite. But where are the remains? Animals scattering them completely? Bones carried miles away? Water carrying them downstream during runoff? Scattered in reservoir or creek system? Burial in location not yet searched? But where? Given searchers' exhaustive efforts? Removal from site entirely? Someone taking the body away in a vehicle? The cadaver evidence proves death occurred. It doesn't prove location of remains. The detail that haunts investigators most: those brown cowboy boots with camouflage print. Sizes too large for DeOrr's feet. Everyone agrees he was wearing them that morning at breakfast. They have never been found. Boots that large on a small child would fall off within feet if he walked. They would be visible. Brown stands out in green forest. Stationary. Boots don't walk away. Durable. Leather and synthetic don't degrade like fabric. Findable. 200 searchers walked every inch of terrain. If DeOrr wandered, the boots would be on ground near camp. They're not. If he was attacked by an animal, boots would be at attack site. They're not. If he drowned, boots might float or sink, but should be in or near creek. They're not. If someone removed his body, they would remove the boots too, making him easier to carry. Removing evidence. The boots' absence suggests human involvement. Someone removed them. The questions remain. When? Where? And why? 2026 begins with the DeOrr Kunz Jr. Case exactly where it has been for 11 years. Suspended between evidence and absence, between suspicion and proof, between a family's grief and a community's conviction. Official case status, open. Active investigation through Lemhi County Sheriff's Office. No arrests. No charges filed. Suspects identified but not prosecuted. Remains never recovered. Case file voluminous. Thousands of pages of interviews. Forensic reports. Search logs documenting years of effort. Physical evidence sits in evidence locker. North Face jacket from 2024 discovery. Waiting for DNA technology advances to enable retesting. Other items collected over years. None conclusive. The parents live separated lives. Relocated from Idaho Falls area. No public statements in recent years. Living under permanent cloud of suspicion despite no criminal charges. Timber Creek Campground remains open to public. Coordinates 44.9841 degrees north. 113.915, 3 degrees west. Forever associated with tragedy. Visitors occasionally still search despite years passing. The diaper tree area. The fire ring. The creek. All unchanged by time or trauma. The question persists. Where is DeOrr Kunz Jr. after 200 searchers? Over 100 sheriff visits. Cadaver dogs. Helicopters. Dive teams. Sonar equipment. And 11 years of investigation. The answer remains unknown. July 10th, 2025 marks the 10th anniversary. Trina Clegg, DeOrr's grandmother, issues a statement. DeOrr would be 12 years old now. We don't know if he would be tall or short, athletic or artistic, outgoing or shy. We don't know because he was taken from us when he was just 2. But we know this. We will never stop looking. We will never stop hoping. We will never stop loving little man. Her ritual continues. Trina visits Timber Creek regularly, brings flowers, sits by the creek, prays, cries, refuses to believe her grandson is gone forever without answers. Her position on her daughter remains complicated. Publicly, she supports Jessica. Privately, the doubts must be unbearable. Does a grandmother believe her daughter is innocent, or does she live with horror of knowing family may be responsible? Sheriff John Bennett has made over 100 trips to Timber Creek since taking office. He knows every rock, every tree, every depression in ground. In a 2025 interview, he stated his commitment clearly. We lift rocks we've lifted before. We scan areas we've scanned. Because what if we missed something? What if it's there and we just haven't found it yet? That boy deserves to be found. His family deserves answers. I'll keep looking until I can't look anymore. The dedication of rural law enforcement shows clearly. Lemhi County is small. Resources are limited. But this case has received more attention, more hours, more commitment than cases in jurisdictions 10 times larger. They care because it's their mountain, their county, their responsibility. After 11 years of investigation, 3 primary theories remain viable. Theory 1. Accidental death and cover-up is considered most likely by investigators. The scenario: DeOrr died accidentally. Fall. Injury. Medical event. Either at camp or during the DeOrr trip. Parents panicked. Instead of calling for help, they hid the body. The fishing trip established alibi. The 911 call was performance. The missing DeOrr witnesses. Failed polygraphs. Missing items in apartment. All point toward this conclusion. Evidence supporting includes parental deception indicators, no trace evidence in wilderness, cadaver dog alerts at campsite, Failed polygraphs. Klein investigation conclusions. Court validation of suspicions. Evidence against. No body ever found. No direct proof of death. No forensic evidence at apartment or campsite. Parents maintained innocence. Theory 2. Intentional harm. Is less likely but possible. The scenario: one or both parents deliberately harmed DeOrr, either in anger or for darker reasons. The camping trip was premeditated cover for disposal. Evidence supporting mirrors theory 1, plus degree of planning suggested by trip logistics. Evidence against: no apparent motive. No history of mistreatment documented. Seems inconsistent with spontaneous nature of trip. Theory 3. Unknown accident or event is considered least likely. The scenario: something happened to DeOrr that wasn't parents' fault and isn't detectable by searchers. Fell into hidden crevice. Taken by animal in way that left no trace. Some unknown factor. Evidence supporting: wilderness is vast and unpredictable. Cases exist where remains aren't found for decades. Missing 411 phenomenon of unexplained disappearances. Evidence against: no scent trail. No trace evidence. Oversized boots should have been found. Statistical improbability of complete disappearance without trace. Parental behavioral indicators. The investigative consensus: DeOrr died at or near the campsite. Parents know what happened. The body was removed or hidden in way preventing discovery. Until remains are found or someone talks, the case cannot progress to prosecution. Technology provides hope. The 2024 jacket DNA is degraded but not useless. Investigators wait for advances in low-quantity DNA analysis. Degraded sample recovery techniques. New sequencing technologies. Every year, forensic science improves. What couldn't be tested in 2015 could be tested in 2020. What couldn't be analyzed in 2024 might be possible in 2026, 2027, 2028. Precedent exists. Other cold cases have been solved decades later through DNA advances. The jacket could still provide answers. Confession remains possible. People confess years later. Guilt erodes resolve. Relationships end. Removing loyalty. Deathbed confessions occur. Someone involved might talk. Isaac Reinvand? Robert Walton. Now in his 80s, a parent facing their own mortality, new witnesses could emerge. Someone camping in the area might have seen something without realizing significance. Memory can be triggered by anniversary coverage. Tips still arrive occasionally. Accidental discovery remains possible. Hikers, hunters, forest workers might stumble on remains. Erosion might expose burial site. Animals might uncover evidence years later. The case remains open because these possibilities exist. The legal impact has already been established. Kunz versus Klein in 2019 created precedent for private investigators' First Amendment protections when commenting on cases of public concern. Investigators can state professional opinions about suspects without liability if based on thorough investigation. Investigative impact continues evolving. The failure to find DeOrr, despite massive effort, has led to discussion of wilderness search limitations. Sometimes absence of evidence truly means the subject was never there to find. Cases where parents are involved require aggressive investigation, even when it traumatizes grieving families. The Kunz case demonstrates that sometimes the grieving parent narrative is cover for guilt. Cultural impact persists. Little Man has become cautionary tale. The case is studied in criminal justice courses as example of circumstantial case construction. Wilderness search challenges. Parental deception patterns. Cold case persistence. True crime podcasts. Documentaries. News specials have covered the case extensively. The mystery of complete disappearance fascinates and horrifies. Community impact on Lemhi County is permanent. Timber Creek is no longer just a campground. It's a crime scene. A mystery. A place where a little boy vanished into mountain silence. Broader Idaho awareness of child safety. Wilderness dangers. Possibility that evil can hide behind parental faces has increased. The family has been destroyed, separated, living under suspicion. Whether innocent victims or guilty perpetrators, they've lost everything. Their son, their relationship, their community, their peace. Return to July 10th, 2015. A 2-year-old boy. Blonde hair catching sunlight. Clumping around in boots too big for small feet. Little man. Curious. Energetic. Loved. By 2:28 that afternoon, he was gone. 11 years later, he would be 12. Middle school age. Learning who he is. Who he wants to be. Navigating friendships and homework and growing up. But DeOrr Kunz Jr. will forever be 2 years old in camouflage. Frozen in time at Timber Creek Campground. The unanswered questions remain. Where is he? What happened during those crucial hours on July 10th? 2015? Did he suffer? Did his parents fail him through neglect or through malice? Will his remains ever be found? Will anyone ever be held accountable? Whether through accident, tragedy, or crime? DeOrr Kunz Jr. is gone. Somewhere in the Idaho wilderness. Or somewhere far from it. His story ended. But the search for truth continues. Sheriff Bennett still lifts rocks. Grandmother Trina still visits the creek. The DNA waits for technology to advance. The boots remain missing. The case remains open. And somewhere, somehow, the truth remains. Waiting to be found. Little man deserves to come home. If this case moved you, if you believe DeOrr deserves answers, help keep his story alive. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss when we cover cases like this, stories that demand justice, that refuse to be forgotten. Share this video. Someone out there might know something.